We are counting down 10 wild rock and tunnel secrets. These spots sit completely hidden in plain sight. American mountain roads look perfectly clean and simple. Painted lines and smooth curves hide the real truth. The ground under those tires fights back incredibly hard. Water pushes right through solid rock. Mountains simply do not sit still. They actively leak, crack, and shift. Engineers have to deeply respect that underground movement. Some massive highway tunnels stay wet for decades. Solid limestone holds massive hidden plumbing systems. Air acts exactly like a living thing underground. A tunnel can look perfectly dry at noon, yet it can still drip like rain inside. These strange stories sound entirely made up. The stakes are very real right now. Cars pass through these dangerous spots in mere seconds, yet the underground work keeps doing its job. Let's begin with fact number 10. Fact number 10. Bridge born from cave. Collapse. The natural bridge looks like a very simple stone arch. It looks like a fast river just cut a notch. But the shape points to a stranger underground story. Evidence suggests the bridge is a collapsed cave roof. Cedar Creek originally flowed completely underground. The moving water traveled through heavily soluble limestone. Weak acid slowly ate the solid rock away. This created a huge cavern inside the mountain. Then the wide cave roof started to fail. Sinkholes and collapses eventually exposed the hidden gorge, but one tough, resistant span stayed standing. That remaining slice is the bridge we see today. The physical scale is truly massive. The arch stands about 215 feet high. That is taller than a modern 20-story building. The gap spans about 90 feet across. That is wide enough to fit 2 school buses. Here's the thing, the bridge is not frozen in time. Measurements indicate it still recedes very slowly. It loses about 1/5,000th of an inch per year. That is far thinner than a standard sheet of paper. Cedar Creek continues to flow directly under it today, which means the water still shapes the gorge right now. That is insane. A completely hidden cave slowly became an open window. Fact number 9. The scars of saltpeter. Scraping. Natural tunnel gets treated like a pure nature stop, yet the huge portal cliffs hold a strange human record. Visible pits and deep grooves cover the limestone walls. They look like simple natural wear at first glance, but historical records show they are specific tool marks. During the 1860s, work crews scraped the walls by hand. They furiously used iron picks and heavy chisels. They were hunting for valuable saltpeter or potassium nitrate. It is a highly critical ingredient for making black powder. The powder requires about 75% nitrate to work effectively. Bat guano collects naturally in these deep cave cracks. Over thousands of years, it builds rich nitrate deposits, so troops scraped those deposits straight off the hard rock. Dark soot stains also remain heavily on the stone. This indicates workers boiled chemical residues with wood ash nearby. What's wild is how well the scars actually survived. The dense bedrock was extremely durable, so the sharp tool cuts remain very clear today. The exact same cliffs also hold extremely ancient fossils. They show sea life from the ancient Ordovician period, so the wall tells 2 distinct stories at once. One from millions of years ago, another from the desperate 1860s. You can still see both layers right now. Fact number 8. Fighting endless indoor, rain mountain tunnels usually seem like totally dry, safe concrete tubes. Yet the dark rock inside acts exactly like a sponge. Big Walker Mountain Tunnel perfectly shows how water fights back. Workers cut roughly 4,129 feet through the massive ridge. That is like putting 8 football fields end to end. The root hit thick layers of sandstone and limestone. Limestone holds hidden cracks and highly pressurized underground springs. so digging immediately opened new paths for trapped water. The fresh tunnel heading flooded almost constantly. Massive mechanical pumps ran non-stop to clear the muddy floor. Still, cold water poured relentlessly from the ceiling. Crews wore heavy, rubber coats just to stay warm enough. Hypothermia was a very serious risk in the wet dark. Locals even bluntly called it a deep wet hole. Workers used over 30,000 feet of heavy timber shoring. That is enough solid wood to stretch 6 miles. Here's the thing, a mountain tunnel cannot be completely sealed, so clever engineers built special drains called weep holes. They safely guide the water behind the thick concrete lining. The heavy water pressure inside the mountain still exists today. Springs still feed those ancient, hidden cracks constantly. The tunnel still does quiet work moving that water. Drivers speed through without ever noticing the hidden rain. Fact number 7. The mountain that breathes air. The ground usually feels totally solid and entirely still, but Butler Cave physically pushes air like a giant lung. Many people assume cave winds come from simple temperature shifts, yet this specific cave constantly reacts to outside barometric pressure. It is a fascinating, true barometric breathing cave system. When outside pressure actively rises, air forcefully pushes inward. When outside pressure quickly drops, air pours rapidly back out. The cave acts exactly like a massive trapped air tank. It balances natural forces just like a large plumbing system. The tight maze layout holds distinct pressure pockets securely. Then it vents them through very narrow underground passageways. Those extremely tight rock routes act precisely like nozzles. They powerfully accelerate the moving air into remarkably strong gusts. That's wild. A small weather change creates a heavy physical wind. There is no violent surface storm required. The flowing airflow even protects the colonies of hibernating bats. Fresh blowing air clears out stale carbon dioxide seasonally, and it is still actively happening right now. Pressure swings roll across the Virginia hills every single day. The cave entrances still inhale and exhale accordingly. The mountain breathes effortlessly without lungs and without life. It simply reacts to the invisible weight of the sky. You absolutely cannot make this stuff up. Fact number 6. A hidden sandstone roof. Mammoth Cave is massive, yet the surface above looks remarkably flat. Usually, huge underground voids cause the surface ground to fail. Massive sinkholes rapidly form when thin limestone roofs simply collapse. But Mammoth Cave has a highly secret structural rock shield. A tough layer called the Big Clifty Sandstone sits directly above. Sandstone is much harder to dissolve than regular soluble limestone, so it acts exactly like a tough, very solid roof. This protective roof forcefully steers the underground water sideways. Water naturally runs along the rock edges instead of dropping down. This lets the dark passages grow incredibly and dangerously wide. The forest ground above stays perfectly intact, which means the sheer drop remains totally out of sight. Hidden passages drop roughly 300 feet deep in several places. That equals a 30-story building going straight down. Dropping underground water tables carved these incredibly deep lower levels. This happened roughly 10 to 15 million years ago. The ultimate result is a complex, stacked, multi-level rock maze. Visitors walk through vast spaces carved under different ancient climates. The Green River still directly controls the modern water flow. Spring floods still forcefully push water back into the lower tunnels. Park engineers track this shifting underground flow carefully. The massive cave remains a working natural drain system today. The massive sandstone cap seamlessly keeps it all beautifully hidden. Fact number 5. Giant lungs inside solid rock. A long highway road tunnel aggressively traps air like a bottle. Fast cars and heavy trucks constantly pour exhaust into the space. Carbon monoxide builds up rapidly in the trapped air. It is an invisible, odorless, and highly dangerous lethal gas. East River Mountain Tunnel stretches 1,033 meters incredibly long. That is easily over 10 football fields placed end to end. The deep rock tube completely lacks any natural cross-ventilation breeze, so structural engineers built a massive mechanical breathing system. They installed 24 massive industrial fans deep inside the mountain. 12 large fans push fresh mountain air forcefully in. 12 fans vigorously pull dirty vehicle exhaust completely out. They can swap the entire tunnel air volume in 2 minutes. That is like completely emptying a whole office building constantly. High-tech sensors monitor the dangerous carbon monoxide levels closely. If toxic fumes rise, the huge fans automatically spin up faster. The busy tunnel handles interstate traffic heavily in both directions. This makes the critical airflow balancing process even more difficult. Stale exhaust can easily dangerously stack up in the middle. Here's the thing. A slow highway wreck traps moving cars instantly. The automated system must safely react in mere minutes. Large backup generators stand ready if regular grid power fails. That means the mountain tunnel literally never stops breathing. Incredible machines keep pulling toxic poison out right now. Traffic keeps moving steadily because the air keeps moving. Fact number 4. The freight train, through Stone Natural Tunnel State Park, effectively hides heavy industry inside. It normally looks like a very calm, quiet tourist stop, but massive freight trains still roll heavily through the rock today. Back in 1893, a smart railroad company laid tracks inside. Blasting a completely new mountain cut simply cost too much. The huge natural opening offered a massive, totally free shortcut. The rock passage stretches about 850 feet, wonderfully long. It reaches an impressive 80 to 100 feet high. That easily equals an 8-story commercial office building. The interior width hits about 200 feet. Modern massive freight cars still clear the rock very easily. Norfolk Southern currently owns and effectively operates the busy line. CSX holds valuable trackage rights for their very own runs. About 10 huge coal trains blast loudly through it daily. That is a remarkably steady stream of incredibly heavy freight. The state officially bought the surrounding park land in 1967. Yet a strict legal easement kept the commercial tracks active, so industrial commerce and tourism share the exact same gap. Visitors safely watch from high elevated walkways above the trains. The rugged tunnel floor only officially opens once a year. On Railroad Day, heavy traffic pauses for guided public tours. But every single other day, the busy corridor works incredibly hard. It is a gorgeous natural wonder doing heavy blue-collar labor. That is totally insane. Fact number 3. The creek-stolen underground stock creek looks totally natural, flowing smoothly through the tunnel. Yet geological evidence indicates it once took a very different path. The flowing creek originally fed the distant Clinch River headwaters. Then it aggressively found a much faster route flowing south. A slow geological process called stream piracy completely changed the map. The normal surface stream suddenly sank into a deep sinkhole. That massive hole acted exactly like an open plumbing drain. Water suddenly vanished into heavily fractured limestone deep underground. The much shorter route gave the water significantly more vertical drop. More steep drop creates much faster and heavier cutting power, so the totally new underground path quickly and permanently locked in. The old dry surface channel completely and totally dried up. What's wild is how slowly this actually physically happened. Very mild carbonic acid slowly ate the rock over millions of years. Rapidly flowing water then brutally scraped the weakened stone completely away. During the ancient Ice Age, massive debris completely blocked the tunnel. Deep lakes formed upstream and dropped thick layers of sediment. Then intense floods eventually washed the massive blockage completely out again. Stock Creek still aggressively flows through this huge passage right now. The rushing water continues to roughly grind the hard rock floor. It still heavily moves sand and very heavy, abrasive gravel. The fast creek chose the dark underground shortcut very permanently. The geographical water theft remains incredibly visible today. Fact number 2, 600 missing miles. Mammoth Cave already remarkably holds an incredibly massive mapped footprint. Dedicated surveyors have carefully measured roughly 426 miles of passages. That enormous distance equals nearly 2.25 million total linear feet. It would literally take about 900,000 steps to walk it entirely. Yet top experts suggest the official map is far from finished. Researchers firmly believe another 600 miles remain totally hidden nearby. That is well over 3 million feet of completely unknown tunnel. The vast, undiscovered area could easily eclipse the currently known cave. Top scientists do not just wildly guess these absolutely huge numbers. They regularly use advanced monitoring tools like chemical dye tracing. They simply pour harmless colored dye into rapidly sinking streams. Then they carefully watch exactly where it eventually safely exits. If it appears far away, massive hidden connections absolutely must exist. High-tech remote sensing also safely scans for huge voids under the soil. So water continuously moves through unmapped pitch blackness right now. The thick limestone holds very flat layers and broken fault lines. Highly pressurized water violently cuts loops and complex intersecting mazes. Brave survey teams fiercely keep pushing into these wet, tight cracks. They constantly and amazingly find new underground routes to officially connect. The immense cave system remarkably remains a living, constantly expanding puzzle. The official massive size is a totally moving target today. That is incredibly wild. Fact number 1, a working water machine. The huge natural tunnel looks exactly like a single massive collapse. Yet solid evidence clearly points to a highly complex fault-guided machine. The very slow process magically combines chemistry, structure, and moving water. The ancient rock had a very deep, weak seam already. This significant structural break is officially called the Glenita Fault. The deep fault line created many extra pathways for the groundwater. Rainwater slowly mixed with carbon dioxide to quietly form weak acid. That very mild acid seeped deeply into the violently broken rock. It slowly and relentlessly dissolved the soluble limestone and dolomite. This turned incredibly tiny cracks into a massively large hidden hallway. Then fast, Stock Creek got completely stolen into the dark opening. The rapidly moving water viciously dragged grit like extremely hard sandpaper. It relentlessly and roughly scraped the dark tunnel wider and significantly wider. Huge sinkholes eventually completely collapsed at both of the far ends. This finally exposed the huge, dark passage completely to bright daylight. The dramatic result is a huge canyon measuring roughly 200 feet wide. The massive physical scale completely shatters the normal small cave picture. You could fit a remarkably small river securely inside very easily. Here's the absolute best part. The massive geographical machine never actually finally shut down. Stock Creek still rapidly flows through the deep fault zone today. It still violently drags abrasive sediment straight across the hard rock floor. The impressive long-term, moving stream work remarkably remains fully physically visible. The massive stone tunnel is completely and amazingly still active right now. These 10 incredible sites show one very simple, incredibly powerful truth. The dark pavement and soft soil are basically just the surface. Deep under the solid ground, very real work actively happens constantly. Moving water aggressively carves massive deep voids safely using mild acid. Fast creeks dramatically change their long routes and essentially never return. Huge fans flawlessly keep incredibly huge mountain tubes breathing extremely clearly. The geography simply does not just sit completely still for photos. It actively shifts, breaks, and remarkably reshapes itself fairly continually. The totally crazy part is exactly how much actively stays completely hidden. We unknowingly drive directly past these very active systems every single day. The deep rock literally remembers the moving water. The huge tunnels totally remember the intense pressure. And the incredibly strong shaping forces keep violently pushing forward right now.